Hey everyone, welcome to the Finding Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Adam Vohra, and I'm so grateful to have you here. This podcast is all about exploring the journeys of incredible individuals, people who have faced adversity, found their purpose, and are now making an impact in their communities. But it's also about my journey. Over the years, I've faced my own obstacles, moments of doubt, and struggles with identity. Through it all, I found my purpose in giving back, creating a space where people can detach from the negative emotions and stigmas they may associate with their own stories, just like I did with mine. Here, we have real conversations about growth, resilience, and transformation. Whether you're searching for direction, striving for personal development, or simply looking for a place to feel seen and understood, this is for you. So if these conversations resonate with you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on social media. Now let's dive into today's episode.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Finding Purpose podcast. My name is Adam, and I am your host. Before we dive in, I just want to take a moment to thank all of you for your continued support. Your listens, reviews, and shares, they all mean the world to me. This podcast is all about shedding a light on the people who are not only living their purpose, but also impacting their communities in such incredible ways. So if you haven't already, make sure to follow, rate, and leave a review to help us keep growing this amazing community. Last week's episode with Julie Vincent took us deep into the work of emotional and physical transformation. If you missed it, definitely go back and give it a listen. And of course, if you haven't yet tapped into the wisdom from Dana Siffone's episode, it's another must listen. Now today, we're taking you behind the lens with a visionary creative who's shaping culture on a global scale. I'm honored to welcome Omar Reynoso, a Dominican-born New Yorker whose work in the music video industry has amassed over 25 billion views. From 50 Cent to Karol G, Ed Sheeran, Daddy Yankee, Omar has produced visuals for some of the biggest names across every genre. But his creativity doesn't stop there. He's also brought his signature style to commercial work, branded content, live events, and beyond. This is a story about a visionary, versatile, amazing creative, and who found his purpose through creative expression. Let's get into it. Omar, thank you so much for joining me, man.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I know we've talked about it for a minute, and as you were in development of this, so it's nice that it's coming to life, and it's beautiful to see it.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
happy to be here. Honored to be here.
It's so funny because I remember the first time I met you was when I was working at Equinox, and we connected there, and you told me all these things you were doing, and I was just kind of blown away because you come off as very humble and very just, you're soft-spoken, but just the creative genius that you have in your head, given all the work that you've done, really just stuck out to me. So I kind of just want to jump into, Omar Reynoso, the early days, and start there, and just tell me a little bit about that.
Let's see, how early do we go? Like my first bike ride, or?
Well, no. You grew up in.
So I grew up in Queens initially. My mother moved here from Dominican Republic when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I grew up in Queens. Went to elementary and middle school in Queens, and then moved to Westchester, where it was a good jump in versatility and just social classes, in the sense of being from Portchester, New York, where I am proud to be from, and Queens. You get to see and experience all the different social classes because you're right next to one of the most affluent towns in the country, but you're also a 20-minute drive away from the Bronx and the different elements of New York and New York City. So kind of that middle, being in between all that, kind of was very, I think, impactful in my development as just everything. And having not had that chance to, move up into Westchester with my family, I don't know if I'd be where I am today, because it kind of enabled me to meet new people and think outside the box, which was not a thing you experience very much with inner city, schooling and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally get that. And also having the Dominican roots. Do you guys visit DR?
So I was born in DR. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about the Dominican history as I'd like to. But yeah, my whole family is in Dominican Republic except for my mother and my sister and brother. So I do go often, more so now. Like I try to make a point of it because my grandmother's getting older and, family and health. And these are all things that we take for granted, but we just never know when it's over. So I've been more conscious of that and made a conscious effort to be more involved with Dominican culture in itself also. And actually recently I was over there and had a meeting with some of the Dominican creatives and production companies out there and just about how I can help elevate Dominican culture as well on a global scale and kind of bring light to our impact as Latinos, as, a minority in a music industry and film industry where it's not known that we're here. We're just kind of, behind in the shadows and not in a bad way. We just like to put the work in and let it speak for itself for the most part.
When you see your family in DR and you mentioned the contrast between living in Queens and now living in Westchester, how does that really just make a big picture for you?
It's interesting because my family in Dominican Republic has done well for themselves in the spectrum of what it is in DR social classes and economic classes. So I wouldn't say I come from a rich family, but I come from an impactful family. And it is different. And honestly, my grandfather, my great grandfather, all have a legacy behind them that is like I could never even begin to touch. That is such a driving factor in what I do and so impactful in the purpose of how I do things because of their impact and their influence on the community in their neighborhoods. Like my great grandfather was one of the first, supermarkets / bodegas in our town and just helped build a church in our town.
That's
and,
awesome.
And all these little things that actually are so touching and scale so rapidly that it just, I could only hope to be, even in their shadow,
Yeah. It's so funny because I could identify with that too, where my dad's Indian. And when I've gone back to India and I see the way my uncles live and my cousins live, and yeah, they're also in pretty good standing. They're all pretty well educated. A lot of them were former military, but even in that sense, I have a greater appreciation for what I have in my journey and, being originally from Philly and then coming to Connecticut and having that broader perspective and seeing that there are people who are connected with me and my family out there. It's just kind of eye opening. And sometimes I take it for granted, where it's like, all right, like I live this awesome life. And, the work that it took for, my father, your mother, to get us to where we are. Sometimes you sit down there and reflect. So as you're growing up, when did you first discover the creative world?
It's interesting because actually, ironically, in middle school, I don't even know if they do this anymore, but we had like home education classes where they taught you how to do stuff that you needed around the house, like how to cut wood, how to use a saw, how to like change a light bulb, how to test an electric circuit. Like these were things that were actually taught in school at one point. In that class, I helped develop like the scene for the Grease play for our school that year, and like so I got to build the car with some spinning wheels and whatever, and it was just a big prop. But at the end of the day, that was like my first kind of intro into working with my hands and creating something, and my channel into the creative side it actually came through set design and production design and art direction. Because my first videos that I ever did was as an art director, so I was building sets like. For random videos, like a 50 Cent video. I did a Bon Jovi video, like different videos that I was just doing the production visual behind and not part of the whole scheme of the logistics behind it. So it just I've always been a creative. As 5 years old, I was in art school, just watercolors and pastels, whatever, and then got into sketching and all my friends were kind of more into the graffiti and stuff like that, but I had a very strict mother, and she was not gonna have it, and my mother would be the first one to turn me in to this day if I did something wrong. So, yeah, the creative thing kind of latched on early. I've just always have liked arts and making stuff like with my hands, like Legos and stuff. Like I still play with Legos.
Really?
yeah, like it's still a thing. It's still like a therapy for me. Like
That's
just
awesome.
doing a Lego set. Like, so I think it's, and I think we're all creative. I think we just don't give ourselves the right channels to be creative in most times, because we all have the kid inside that didn't get to fully experience being a kid, given whatever life threw at us. Like I think we cut ourselves short of childhood a lot of times.
It's so funny because I wish I utilized the creative side of my mind more, and I'm realizing it now, like when I'm doing events and people are like, what do you envision? And I'm like, well, this is kind of what I envision, but I have no idea how to really make it happen, which is usually why I have to bring in like a creative director. I have to bring in a producer to kind of actually like really plot out the vision for me better. Now I'm a little bit better because I've done a few events where I'm able to just know the components at the very least. But man, I envy just how you exercise, because I look at it as a muscle, and the more you exercise it, the better you get at it. And you started with the the stage set for the Grease show. Is that when you'd say you fell in love with it?
No, because I wouldn't say that's when I fell in love with it, because I didn't know that was a thing you could actually do as a career. I thought that was just like school stuff.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know, like I knew there's Broadway and stuff, but I hadn't like been to a theater show at that age yet. I hadn't experienced those different elements, so I didn't know it was a thing that you could make a living out of.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't learn that till later on, and maybe it's just like lack of knowledge that it was a thing or whatnot, because then immediately after high school I was a contractor for almost 15 years. So I was renovating houses, bathroom remodels, new construction, all kinds of stuff, and that's what made building sets so easy. But I didn't know that it was like a thing, and then I just kind of hanging out with some friends on set one day. They were like shooting some content piece or something, and I was like, wait, you guys are making money to like do this? Like this is a thing? And it just was like so magical. And I think the filmmaking and storytelling is, and even literature, like all the arts are so like magical. And I think people who don't realize it is just because they haven't found the space in which they can realize it in.
Yeah. So you went into contracting, and then you discovered that you were able to do this professionally. What was that early journey like in your career?
It was man, it was magical in all regard, because I've really been fortunate to every step of the way, like that just opportunity aligned with the amount of energy I was putting into things. So building sets was the first thing, because I just naturally I could build a house with my eyes closed, and one of the first jobs I did, I got it because I was able to build the set. So I was able to produce the video and also build the set, and that kind of, at that point in time, there was only so many producers in New York.
Yeah.
And they all had said no to that job. So they were like, so who did it? Because it got done. And that's kind of what put me on the map. It was like, oh shit, this guy made it happen, And then because I was a contractor, a lot of those skills translated over, which was like, dealing with contracts, permits, teams. Like you got to hire, now instead of a plumber, an electrician, a finish carpenter, now I'm hiring a gaffer, a grip, a cinematographer. So it's like I'm still managing people. It's just applied differently. So a lot of those skills translated over pretty well, and just naturally, I've been good at delegating always to some degree. I also do play stuff very close to the chest. I'm still working on delegating, but I forgot what the original question was at this point.
You answered it.
I think I did. I think I did.
So like, that's so cool. And one of the things that, I mentioned it in the intro, where you always carry yourself with a level of humility. And, that's something that I always just like respected about you, just the way you carried yourself. Now you're in this industry where there's a lot of egos, and there's a lot of, clout chasing and whatnot. How do you manage people in that environment and still maintain Omar?
Man, I got some OGs that they're gonna watch this and send it right back to me and be like, "Yeah, you better keep it chill." No, I've been very fortunate that early on, I kind of got like injected right into like the top, 10th percentile of directors and producers, and it's like, how can you have any ego when you're around people who've been doing this for as long as you've been alive,
Yeah.
who did, songs that resonated with your youth, All the Way Up was a big anthem, and
yeah.
that was like, how do you carry that and like act any type of way around people who did All the Way Up or Pop That or worked on set with Biggie, like or were part of Big Pun, or like when you work with people who were with Kevin Gates early on, Two Phones, like when you work with people that have done that body of work, it's like, who are you? Like, so that kind of helped me stay, humble, because I already had my own little side ego outside of that anyways, that I knew that ego of Omar wasn't going to work in this space.
Yeah.
Because I'm confident in what I do. It wasn't even an ego thing. It's a confidence thing. Like I pride myself on knowing that anything I do, I give my all on a level that most people can't or won't, because I treat everything so close to the heart always. But in that, I'm humble about it, because it is very personal to me. Like every video I've done, every commercial, it is very personal. I do really carry it personally, and luckily, shout out to all the OGs that have welcomed me into their spaces, and seeing that, even to this day, I'll watch a video that I saw growing up as a kid, and then I'll be like, wait, you did that video? Like, I was on set the other day with the guy who directed the video for like Uchiwali with Nas, like, and I didn't, all respect to him, like, but I just didn't know, like, because back then you're not looking at who directed it, because it didn't impact me. Who directed it didn't matter to me. But now when I watch these videos, it does matter to me. So I see and I'm like, wait, you did this? Or wait, you did that? It's like, wait, you like what? And so it's like, it keeps me definitely very humble and also very grateful, which is probably what keeps me the most humble, is how grateful I am to be in a space where I can do this and be creative and work with people that love what they do, and people who've done it for so long, I think that's what keeps me in check, is that gratefulness, and the fact that, I got all these OGs around me who've really done amazing things,
That's awesome, man. And, when you're working with, different artists, and essentially, you're telling the story that they want you to tell through the work that you do and the production that you put out for them. I want to talk a little bit about storytelling, because I think it's super powerful. You bring their story to vision. How does that responsibility feel? And what is like the process like? That's actually I'm just a curious question. I don't even think that's related to purpose. I think I'm kind of really fascinated with
I
that
think
component.
The thing I'm very conscious of the directors that I work with, and because it's the director and the artist vision. So it's my job to just provide the tools. I'm like the sous chef. Like, I'm back there prepping all the ingredients and stuff, and making sure everything they need for by the time it hits their counter is there. For me, what's most fundamental is to be as true to the creative as possible, the director's vision, who is the creative mind behind all of it. Because I'm mainly dealing with logistics, and I got to get creative with how I deal with that. But it's very important that I understand their vision, like, wholeheartedly, so that I can give them the best location for their vision, the best cast for their vision, the best, lighting that's going to help make it feel either dramatic or mellow or melancholical or sad or what. Like, I just have to make sure all that I can give them to make that come to life is there. And then I kind of have to trust them a little bit, like, well, a lot of it. I have to, I kind of got to just be like, look, and I've been in situations where, and this is not often. Luckily, I work with a lot of veteran directors, but I have worked with some younger directors here and there. And it's like, then I kind of got to hold their hand a little bit, because I'm like, wow, you're going to like fuck this up. Like, but luckily the directors bring it home, they make it easy for me to do my job by sometimes even by their flexibility. Because sometimes you can't get exactly what you want to get the vision that way. But maybe if we treat it this way, it'll still drive the same story, just not the way initially conceived, but it'll still tell the same story. So, big shout out to directors, because they have to pivot a lot, just as producers do. They constantly have to pivot, so.
Yeah. Was there ever a moment when you were on set and you just paused and you looked around and you're like, man, I'm doing it. I'm living in my purpose. This is bringing so much joy. Did you ever have that moment?
Every single time I'm on set, literally,
Love
I don't even have to set my alarm clock for sets. I'm just so ready to be on set that it's just like I won't even sleep sometimes. Like I'm just like let's get this day going. Like, you know. And obviously you go in, it's we treat it like as a battlefield, you know, like you go in and you're going to battle and you got your team, and I trust the people around me so much, and I'm so grateful for the people around me that it makes it, you know, I'm happy to be around everybody I'm around, and I don't do stuff unless I'm around people I want to be around and love and know that they love equally what we're doing. You know, we're all here at the end of the day to serve a purpose. And the purpose on set is to bring the creative vision, the director's vision to life, or the artist's vision to life. And the thing is, production is one of those spaces where if you don't love it, you really can't do it because it's very demanding. In every capacity, not just my capacity, but it's like even as a production assistant, you're still doing a 12, 14, 16-hour day sometimes. So it's like, if you hate this, you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
So it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not for anybody who doesn't love it. And they kind of fall away quick. You notice it, where it's like somebody came on for clout and they're like, oh shit, this is a lot.
Yeah.
Even if all you're doing is getting coffee, you're getting up at 4 a.m. to be somewhere, or 5 a.m. to be somewhere. Or sometimes you're doing an overnight where it's like you get there at 8 o'clock and you know you're not going home till 8, 10 a.m. the next day. So it's like, it's not for the faint of heart. So if you don't love it, you don't do it, you know. You try it, and then a lot of people just, you know, wither away with time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's taxing on you. But like, I love it. It's like doing what you love and loving what you do.
Exactly.
And you're living purposefully every single
Exactly. So
day that you're at work.
every chance, even now, like I'll still do videos where I come on set and just help rig stuff, or like I'll be the guy who goes to get called. I don't care. Like I love being in that environment so much that it's not, there's no room for ego in it if you love it. You know, it's like I take pride in what I do, and I love being around, because even if you are just the guy getting coffee, you're in an environment with people who know so much that you're learning something. Unless you're truly there just for your rate, like there's no way you're not learning something being on set, whether it be something technical, something logistical, or even just a place you hadn't been before, or people you hadn't worked with before. Like there's something to be learned on every set. And so every time I get to be on a set, I'm very grateful, and it's like magical every time still.
Dude, I love that. And, you know, you mentioned so many key components that I cover in my conversations here. You mentioned humility, you mentioned gratitude, just doing what you love and loving what you do, and then also the hard work that goes behind it. One of the people that you've mentioned throughout this, though, is your mom. And I know that you have a beautiful relationship with your mom. Talk to me a little bit about that and how she's played in incremental, like a monumental role in your journey.
My mother is, man, she's a two-sided sword, double-edged sword. She's my biggest motivator for sure, and definitely has helped me find purpose through the sacrifices she's made, you know? It's like my mother left, Dominican Republic, top of her class, magna cum laude in law. And you know, we have people in the family who were sitting Supreme Court justices. So my mother could have easily scaled up the legal ladder in our country and been in the same position eventually. So for her to have left all that behind for my sister and us, and you know, at the time, it's eye-opening, and you don't want to let stuff like that go to waste. And my purpose has shifted over the years, given her health and whatnot, as things have shifted with her. Like I've found that my purpose has become more family-oriented than monetary-oriented, which initially it was monetary, because, you know, we grow up thinking, oh, you make a ton of money, you're successful. And it's like, once you see that health can be in question, and, you know, the people you love aren't going to be here forever, you kind of shift your position in life on what you give purpose to, and what you expend your energy on. And my mother has been one of my biggest supporters, but also the first one to, you know, pull the carpet out from under my feet if I needed it. Like, hey, like, you're still just Omar, you know? And that's the reality. Like, we're all just still who we are at the end of the day. And somewhere in the world, there's somebody who gave birth to us and spanked us at one point. And like, we've all been through that. Somebody changed all our diapers. Like, we all shit, we all eat, we all got to go to sleep. Like, we all have the same cycles. And my mother's a very confident individual, almost cocky, in all honesty. Like even to this day, like people see her on my IG and they're like, "Yo, whose man's is this?" Like she's acting up. She pop out with the Cartier shades, which it's out of hand sometimes. I'm like, you gotta relax. So it's very hard for me to keep my humility in check with her around sometimes because it's like she's a whole diva sometimes. But we come from a family where all the women are like that, and all the men are humble, and all the women are like the last Coca-Cola in the desert. Like it's but she's been a big motivator, and she's had the different things arise over the years and with age and with time, and I find a great purpose and a great motivation in being supportive of her and what she's going through, and just trying to be a good. It's not even about being a good son. Sometimes it's like people say like, "Oh, you're a good son," but it's like, no, we just got to be good humans.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, like it's just you got to want well for the person beside you, whether you love them or not, whether you want to or not. Like we just got to fundamentally be good humans, and her experiences have allowed me to witness all the different sides of people in passing, in her friendships, in her relationships, and dealing with different medical things, and just seeing how absent other people are with their family.
Yeah.
Has really been like, wow, that's not what I want for myself. And you can't control the outcome of your children, but I would hope my children will be there for me the way I try to be there for my mother, and just always put that good energy out there. And we don't always see eye to eye on things, and we bump heads probably 7 times a day, but we get through it. And she's I hope she's proud of me. She better be proud of me.
Well, it's funny because I totally agree with you. And one of the things you said is like you see how family dynamics differ from family to family, and just like the fundamental values that you grow up with. For me, I think it's very cultural because I came from traditional cultural backgrounds. My mom was Persian Jewish. My dad was Indian. They're both immigrants to this country, and so I was raised in a very traditional, somewhat strict household. And while I rebelled and pushed back a lot against those values growing up, they still were ingrained in me, at an early age, where it's like, listen, I know the difference between right and wrong. I know what I should be doing. I know who I should be hanging out with. Energy is real. I remember growing up, my mom would be like, I don't think you should hang out with that person. Or like, that's not a good person. I really want you kicking it with. And, when I ignored her, she was right, and but the thing is, she would never say, I told you so. It was very much like, okay, like what's next? What are you going to do? And what are you going to learn from the situation? And, I think that's, I think your mom, my mom would have gotten along really well. As you've kind of progressed on this journey, right? What are the daily habits that you incorporate for you to stay grounded in your purpose? And crushing it at Equinox every day.
Yeah, I've been trying, man.
Yeah,
trying. Shoot, I think when we met, I think I dropped like 20 pounds that first 2-3 months, and like I've been trying to be very mindful of health. One of the things I do actually, and I've been putting into practice, is just not looking at my phone immediately when I wake up. And I think Denzel said it in a podcast at one point, and I was like, I'm going to try that. And then it kind of like just stuck.
Yeah.
So like when I wake up, I'm like, all right, let me go do like a word search or a crossword puzzle, and like have some water, have some coffee, and like really have that like crucial like me time before I get my day going. And then I jump in and I make my list, and I try to be that's a tricky one. I think it's the me time more than anything, because it's like if I don't take those minutes to like really structure my day and understand what I need to get done, then the whole day kind of just will fly by, and you'll be like, wait, what did I get done?
Yeah.
So I think I really get ahead of the day and just take those first 10-15 minutes. And honestly, just even if it's I just sit up in my bed or just lay there in my bed, like I just think about where I am and how I am lucky to be where I am. I have
The moment of gratitude.
That moment of gratitude of just like, I woke up today, you know, like that's a big thing. And it's like when people tell me like they're having a bad day, I'm like, but you woke up today. And you know, millions of people don't every single day.
Yeah.
And I really do hold some of those things are like really just basic things that I am very conscious of is like, I woke up today. Like just that makes such a world of a difference when you know there's people who are battling things and losing people and losing their homes and losing their jobs and like it's just another opportunity to be better again and to you know, that's one of my things is like, how can I just be better than yesterday? That's all. It's
I love that you said that you just sit there and you be still and you have that me time because, you know, that kind of just grounds you because I'm the same way and also the making of lists are super important for me because then I'm kind of making sure that I'm intentional in everything that I do throughout the day.
big thing.
Rather
big thing.
than getting thrown off guard or getting rocked. And, you know, I was just talking to CV over here where, you know, I'm dealing with this personality that I'm not really used to dealing with. And it's throwing me off and I want to be reactive. But it's, you know, like, boom, like I can pause and have that like, boom, moment of self-reflection, moment of gratitude and not like lash out or send a stupid email or burn a bridge.
That's a
you
big
know?
thing I think that people don't realize is like, we don't, outside of our parents, we don't owe anything to anybody in all reality. And even as grateful as I am for all the opportunities, like, yeah, that like I feel in debt to certain people in a spiritual sense.
Yeah.
But in a, you know, life in itself sense, like we got to deal with ourselves at the end of the day. So if we can't reflect or pause to reflect on stuff, then what are we doing? And it's like, yeah, like we want to be reactive to stuff. And when I'm on set, I'm getting hit with, you know, 300 different requests and like people, every single department on a set is like one thing goes wrong in their department and suddenly that person's world is like ready to end. And it's like, it's not that serious in the bigger scheme of things. And it's like, you got to take a moment to like put yourself in their position, but also not everything merits reacting, you know, being reactive instantly. Like you can take a moment and pause. And I remember early on, I was doing a video for a rapper and the guy was just off the rails all the time. Like, and it was like, the commissioner for that video was like, Omar, how are you so calm? And I'm like, outside of dying, like everything else I think we could figure out. Like, that's it. Like, that's my baseline is like, but did you die? You know, like, and if that's, you didn't die, then you still have time to figure it out or learn from it or just dwell in it. Like whatever it is, whatever the lesson is that's going to come out of that, unless you died, you can still do something.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest thing is like, but did you die? You know, as much as people joke about it, it's the truth. Like, but did you die?
Yeah. Because you could still do something too.
Yeah. And even like working out, like, you know, training, like you got to push to that, like you got to push to failure, but it's like, you got to push till you die almost. And then you're like, all right, now I got a good workout in, but I didn't die. You know,
it's so true.
You know?
Oh my God.
You know?
It's so true.
So,
but that's like, it's such a raw perspective, but it's so true.
Yeah, it's so basic. It's like so basic. Like, my basic like requirement for life is like wake up. I woke up. There, I got a head start on millions of people who did not wake up already. You know, and then it's like, do I have food? I have food. All right, cool. Like, all right, the day's looking good now. Like, I got coffee. I got food. My days are only going up. You know, and stuff happens, and you know. You know, we all come to unfortunate circumstances, but it's like, it's life. It's life. Wins and losses, like it's life.
It's so funny because we can get bent out of shape over things that are just controllable, like in a sense where it's like, hey, I didn't need to react that way, you know, and if I reacted that way, it probably made it a little worse, rather than just kind of looking at it and being like, what can we do to just fix this? You know?
Exactly.
When you, I want to talk about mentorship because I know there's a lot of people who influence you along the way. Mm-hmm. Who were your both professional or maybe even spiritual or personal mentors? I mean, obviously we talked about your mom earlier and the impact that she had on you. Are there any other people who stood out or anyone who you just like looked at and you're like, God, I love the way they move?
Man, so many people. Like it's a never ending list. Like, because I am very, very conscious of who I'm around. And I only want to be around people that motivate me or compel me to, like, even if it's their own weird ways. Like, I have, people I work with a lot that, like, their form of mentoring is like just straight jokes the whole time. Like, how can I make you feel bad about doing things right? and that's just their form of love, and I appreciate all of it. Like, I really make a wholehearted effort to be around only people who love what they're doing or love life, or like love and purpose is injected into what they're doing. So literally the list is like never ending. Like, everybody around me is in some way, shape, or form helping me elevate in every regard. Even just now, like, having this conversation with you is bringing stuff back to the front of my mind that maybe I had put away for a while, in some of the things that were purposeful in my upbringing, So I'm very conscious of my energy and the people around me. And I've tried to be like the friend who's like out and social and stuff. I tried, like, my friends will tell you, I tried for like a year or two to, like, be a social guy. It's just not me. Like, I really need to be around people who love what they're doing or love what they're about. So the mentor list is like endless, because it's, from day one. Like, one of the cinematographers I work with, Crisino, he was very passionate about what he did. He brought me around certain people, and that injected me into other things, meeting Kid Art. And then that injected me into meeting Kareem Johnson, who's a set vet, 35 years in the game. His father was in the game for his whole life. So Kareem reached out to me to art direct some stuff for another director. And that director became one of my best friends, E. Rivera. And that, it's just, and all these people just keep injecting me into more people who also are in love with what they're doing, or really have a wholeheartedness about uplifting the people around them in one way, shape, or form. And we don't always go about it the right way. Like, some of us just cut jokes all day, and it's like, but that's our form of love. If you grow up in an urban environment, like, the more jokes somebody tells about you, like, that's love. In its own weird, twisted way. But then, John Jay, Eve, Jose, Michael Garcia, like, all these guys, all these directors have allowed me to, like, just almost be experimental in my producing and, like, just figure it out. And there's I could say 20 more directors outside of that for sure. Maybe you could run it as on-screen credits, like, all of them. But yeah, everybody's kind of been open to me experimenting and just learning. And I'm also very transparent when I don't know something. And 9 times out of 10, I'll know who can get me the answer.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important, is having the humility to say I don't know. And not because I'm this producer, I just got to figure it out. No, sometimes I just don't know. And it's like, I'll reach out to people. And, producers are very close-knit. It's a very close-knit community. One of the first jobs I produced was because another producer couldn't, and he was the one that allowed, shout out Rodney. He was like, hey, go, use Omar. And I've reached out to Rodney for things. I've reached out to Brian for things, Shiri, Bruno, like, all these different producers that just are in the industry. And we all support each other. It's a very supportive community.
That's awesome.
Outside of, like, the newer generations that are coming in, where, like, they feel like they need to, like, make a name for themselves in whatever shape or form. And I think a lot of the OGs that I've been fortunate
would you
enough,
consider yourself an OG now?
I'm like a young OG.
You're a young OG. Okay.
I'm a young OG. I'm the YG in the OGs.
yeah, dude. That's awesome.
I am the young buck, and a lot of the producers and directors I just mentioned, they'll tell you, like, I'm the new kid on the block still to them, because they've been around so long, and I'm grateful to have them around me. And that support system is there. It really is there. It's like, all egos aside, everybody's done major stuff that I'm around, like, and just that support system is good. So as far as mentors go, it's like the list is literally never ending.
When it's awesome, because, like, when I think about, like, purpose, and I think about impact, and one of the big reasons that motivated me to do this podcast was because I want to have these conversations that impact others and motivate others to really just carpe diem. And what impact do you want to leave on either your field or in general?
I think that's shifted over time because one of the things was like I wanted to do the biggest videos, and then it went from like the biggest videos. Well, it started as the most videos.
Yeah.
So I mean, my first year producing, I did like 200 something videos or something like that.
Damn.
No, I went like crazy. Like
Working.
it was insane. I remember 1 month I had done like 37 videos or something like that.
That's wild.
Yeah, and like major videos. So it was a lot. I was definitely like overextending myself. So it went from like being producing the most content to like producing the best content.
Yeah.
But then what you start to define as the best content shifts, and it's like, now what's the most impactful content? And that's kind of at the crossroad I'm at now, where I'm trying to like really elevate the cultural and societal impact of what I'm doing. So I'm trying to be selective. Obviously, we all still have bills to pay and whatnot. So, but I am mindful of the fact that I am trying to shift my direction and impact in the industry into a more culturally aware space and just like socially and just entirely, because people have stories to tell that I feel aren't being told. And I'm trying to put myself in those conversations, is those storytelling conversations, so that my impact could be that of a just somebody who wanted it and did it. You know, I think that's like the biggest message that I want to put out there for people is like, I wanted it and I did it, and we all don't have the same path, but you can start from nothing and really go there if you want. And the bigger thing also is like just put a lot of people in position to win at what they want to do. Like it's not even about me anymore. As long as, my bills are paid and I'm loving what I'm doing, like how can I help other people get to where they want to be? And, a perfect example of that is for me, my biggest example and motivator is my little brother. My little brother, about 6 years ago, was working at a country club or whatnot, and I told him, look, come work with me. Like, just come work with me and we'll figure it out. He hated me the first 3 months because like my industry is like comes in waves. So the first 3 months, nothing happened, and and I had just talked him into quitting his job and everything. So he's like, bro, well, like, what'd you make me do this for and all that? And I had him be kind of like my production coordinator / manager, so he was like overseeing all the people. He hated that. He knew he hated it, but he tried it. But being on set allowed him to see other departments, and that kind of brought him into the lighting and grip department, where it's like rigging and stuff. And he loves rigging, and he's amazing at it. He's doing key grip work for a lot of people, which is like the top of his department. And he's all the time just working on dope stuff. Like I remember, a couple months back, I was scouting for a production that I was getting ready to do. And I'm like on the 7th floor of some building on the waterside, riverside in the city. And I look down there and I see my little brother like making this massive rig for like a Nike commercial or something like that. I'm like, wait, Joel? And the people I was with were like, wait, that's your brother, right? I'm like, yeah. Like, and then, I shouted down there, and it's just impressive to see him have found his vein. And that happens a lot. Like people that started maybe with me as the person who did get coffee are now, writing a script or creative directing something or at an agency. And it's like, I like being people's stepping stone. I like being a part of what opened people's eyes to whatever they then ran off with, like being the alley-oop for people.
Love that.
Because I feel like I'm very happy in my space, and all I want to do is elevate what I do. But if along the way I can be a stepping stone for people, it's like, I think that's amazing.
It's so funny because that kind of segued right into my next question. I was going to be like, now that you're a mid-level OG, now you're going to have people who are looking up to you as a mentor. And what does that mean to you? And you just kind of described that with your brother. But now that you're a mentor, and you might not even know you're menteeing people who look up to you, how does that feel? And how do you embrace that role? I mean, you kind of just described it. Yeah.
I loosely described it. We live in a time where it's a very optical time, where it's like social media will have people believing things are either easier than they are, or just reachable, and some things aren't attainable overnight. And I kind of just popped on the radar, but by chance, like as a producer. But there are a lot of young kids that just jump into the game, and what they view as what I do isn't exactly what I do because they just haven't been experienced. You know, I'm not posting every day. I'm not showing people exactly what I do. Not because I don't want to, but because I just rather just be doing it than posting it. So there's people who obviously walk away and take from my journey, from what they perceive as my journey, and apply it. And as long as they do it with good intention, they're going to make it where they're going. But then there's also people who are there for the clout and think that it's like, oh, I'm just around celebrities. And it's like, no, that's like 5% of what I do. It's like, it's everything that leads to that moment. That is what I get paid for.
It's so funny because like I have another friend and he's like a very successful realtor, but he doesn't, advertise, and he's not trying to build this persona, and he's not trying to like sell his self-image as much, and he crushes it. And you're similar in that sense where it's like it's not about like the persona that you build. People know you for what you do. They know that you're good at it, and you don't need that, because I do think that like a lot of people do look for the validation via likes and shares and all that, and that's how they validate themselves. And then you kind of see them behind the iPhone, and you're like, how much of this is actually real? But that
happens a lot.
It happens more often.
Happens
than
a lot in
think.
my industry. It happens a lot. Yeah, so there's a lot of people who come into the industry for the wrong reasons and like for what their optic is of it. Like, oh my God, he's doing the video for X, Y, and Z. And it's like, yeah, I've certainly developed some relationships with some of these people, some of the artists I work with, but I don't let that take away from the fact that I am still a service provider in that regard, and I've made some beautiful relationships with people that have surpassed the service providing element of it, but it's still such a minimal, it's sometimes weeks of prep go into a project, and then you're just on set with an artist for 8 hours of their day. So it's like and that same artist or client or athlete, whoever you're interviewing, they got 18 more they're doing that day. They're just rolling through. Like I did something with Dwayne Wade once. You think if I saw Dwayne Wade in the street, he's gonna be like, "Hey, Omar." No, I might have been stopped 3 of like 18 that day. So, so I don't get too caught up in like who I work with so much. And when something does develop organically with somebody, I do appreciate it and I'm thankful for it. But a lot of people coming into the industry have this idea of what it is to be in the industry, and they think it's what ends up on camera. And it's like there's so much more to that. And what ends up on camera is so fractional to what it actually is, and the involvement with the artist and the CEOs and the stuff like that, Yeah,
well, it's so funny because, one of the things that we talk about a lot on this podcast is knowing your why, knowing why you're doing it. And you alluded to that earlier, where there's a lot of people that go into your industry and they go in for the wrong reasons. And usually, from my experience, the OGs in whatever respective industry can easily sniff that out too. It's like, okay, like your head's not in the right place. You're doing it for X, Y, and Z. I'm doing it for A, B, and C, and it doesn't align, and the synergy is off. One of the things that you said off camera earlier, and you quoted, and you said, "Success is luck."
Yeah. I just recently saw that. It blew my mind.
I love that.
No, and it blew my mind because it was so true.
Yeah. It's just like a powerful statement. And I'd love for you to just kind of talk about your perspective on that quote.
The success is luck is really...
Who said that?
It was Anthony Mackie. He was on an interview, and he was on a podcast. And the podcast he was on was with other professional athletes. And, he made it a point. He's like, somebody was a better shooter than you. Somebody swung a bat better than you. Somebody, ran faster than you. But it took somebody to be like, hey, you're the one to define your success. And that kind of stuck with me because it's true. It's like, somebody reached out to me and was like, hey, I want you to art direct for something. But if that hadn't happened, that was a snowball effect,
Well, it's funny because, when you said that, I immediately thought about great athletes who were projected to be great, like Brandon Roy for the Trailblazers and T-Mac, and it was like one injury. Or like even like Kobe, like he had such a successful career, but everything kind of fell into place. I'm not taking away like his work ethic.
Of course, no.
Because obviously the work ethic came into play. But let's say that Achilles injury happened year 8, like, so I get that, but it's such a contrasting component where it's a hot take for sure,
It is a hot take, and I think it's also important to note that that's why we kind of also have to be broad in our definition of what success is, where it's like, is being successful being the best basketball player in the world, or is being successful being a good enough basketball player that your family's healthy and happy and has time with you? And those definitions in success really kind of help form our life and our livelihood. And it's like, from wanting to produce the most videos to wanting to produce the best videos to wanting to produce the most impactful videos are 3 completely different realms that I've experienced in my trajectory. And I've now found a sense of peace in what I've been doing because of redefining that.
And I think that's attributed to what you said earlier about how your purpose has, I don't know why I said it like that, your purpose has evolved over the years, where it was, I want to do the most videos, I want to do the best videos, and now you have kind of pivoted into this point in your career where you're able to be a little more selective with who you work with and what projects you work on, but you're prioritizing family. And, I think that's where you have also kind of redefined your definition of success, where it's like, I get to, have dinner with my mom like 3 times a week. I get to, spend time with my brother and really elevate him. And that's where it really matters, where you talked about where you're in an industry where success is really determined by who you're positioned next to, or monetary success, or social media recognition. And I think it's just like a really mature perspective that you're presenting here. And then also attributing that there is a level of luck that happens where you need to, so many things need to fall into place, and, I think that's kind of like a nice pivot into faith, and just like having faith that, there is a plan, and I just need to be the best person to myself. And you alluded to it earlier, where it's about looking yourself in the mirror.
Just being a good human. Yeah. And I think, if the finding purpose keeps redefining itself in your day-to-day sometimes. And I think wholeheartedly that shift is not a bad thing. And people sometimes fear that shift or set these definitions for success or purpose in such a in stone manner, where it's like success is 6 figures, a 2-car garage. And it's like, success for me now is like a log cabin on 20 acres. Like, if you asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, I need a 8-car garage, 4 on this side, 4 on this side. I need 2 lifts in that one, and I need 8 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms. Like, and the reality is, as life progresses and you're interacting with more and more people and seeing what success has been for them and what it's taken from them, and how their shift and their purpose has shifted, is eye-opening. So like, I've seen, I'm not going to name who, but like, we spoke about him earlier, but he was at my house, and this is a guy who has a $20 million house here, a $30 million house there, a half a mountain over there. But he was at my house, and it felt like such a home to him that was something he hadn't experienced in such a long time. And it's like, this is somebody who we would optically say is successful, but fundamentally, emotionally, is completely detached from what success is in that regard. And it's like, a lot of times it's because they haven't found their purpose, and or their definition of purpose, of what they construed to be purpose, was not aligned with what it is to be a good human sometimes. And sometimes that becomes overwhelming, and it puts people in a state of depression or sorrow or just, solidarity that they didn't anticipate. Because it's like, all right, you achieved this, but at what cost, and for what purpose?
Yeah. I mean, I think that sometimes success can make you more far removed from your why. And the people who I've met who are successful are still very much grounded in their why, like you are. The people who, as they get more successful, they create distance between that first why, that first feeling of when they first started doing what they were doing. The more distance that grows between that, yeah, then it's going to breed that they're lost, like now
Yep.
all of a sudden they've gone on this journey and they have all these accolades, but they don't even know why they're doing it anymore.
Yep.
And it's sad to see that, but I think it's also, attributed to why, like, I have this podcast where it's like, I want to speak to people who are still very much grounded in their why and thriving in their why. One of the coolest things that I've been able to observe with you while we've been recording, is just kind of how you're able to wear so many hats and just connect people, but also how committed you are to multiple projects, and you give that same level of dedication to them. Talk to me a little bit about that and how that has helped shape the way that you navigate purposefully in every endeavor that you do.
I think I've become more selective of what I do because of that reason. Because as you start to like define your purpose and what you want to do in life and the impact you want to have in life, you start to really kind of fine tune the energy you put into things. So it's helped now that I've fine tuned kind of like the purpose and the motivation behind things. I've become more selective, which I mentioned, but also people come to me because of that. Because I take pride in, not that I'm the best producer. Other producers will tell you this. Like, none of us, we've all done amazing things. None of us have like egos about it.
Yeah.
And because we're each the best at being ourselves as a producer, like our version of producing. So I might not be the best producer for X, Y, and Z project, but maybe this guy is, and so I'll connect him, or, and understanding like that as I've progressed in what I've done and my accolades and whatnot, I really am wholeheartedly committed to everything I say yes to. And having that energy allows, clients and artists and the label to feel confident in whatever they give you and not having to, micromanage you or supervise you. Like, I have clients that have given me almost, $500,000 budgets and never had to set foot on set, like, to be there. Like, they're just like, send them the money, let them deal with it, and I'm thankful for clients like that because they trust me, and I've worked hard to develop that trust, and a big part of it is like really committing wholeheartedly to stuff and being conscious of that, like, because you don't know the impact you have on whoever you're around in these scenarios. Like, even if even now, like, we're gonna all walk away from here closer friendship. I've now met Claudio. Like, these are all things that you don't know what impact you have on people and what they take away from it.
Yeah.
So if you're kind of like, oh, it's just a check, then it's like, okay, that's all that, you're not impacting anybody. Like, people are going to look at you as just another guy on the totem pole.
Yeah.
That's it. But I take most pride in when I'm working different sets and people not being able to identify who I am,
Yeah.
That they just know I'm somebody who's working on the production, not my title, not who I don't care for that. I care that we're all progressively moving towards one goal, and being mindful of my energy and conscious of like giving things my all has enabled me to, keep reaching new clients and get referrals and just people know, like, if they come to me, they're coming to me not because I'm the best producer, but because I care the most.
Yeah.
Not to say other producers don't care. That's not what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
but it's pairing the caring with my also skill to do so many diverse things, where it's like, I don't need to just delegate. I can also jump in and help light something or build something or pick up a camera or what, like, all these little facets in what we do. And my intention into doing these things has enabled me to learn all these things. So it's like, if right now the mic stopped working, I could go jump back there with Claudio and troubleshoot it.
Yeah.
And those little things have values. They're little values that my clients appreciate, and I think it's part of that intention and just loving what you do. Just loving it, like, and wanting to know every element about it. Like, we went off camera and I started asking about lights. Like, I'm a curious person. I'm a very curious person. And I like to see how people do things because I don't know the best way to do everything.
Yeah.
I might know the best way to do certain things, but not everything. So I'm like a sponge. I let the inner child in me play at all times. Like, I'm like, what's that cable for? Or what's that light doing? Or, oh, where'd you get this? Or, and I think that's important. And production is one of those environments where you could do that.
Yeah.
I would hope doctors aren't being playful and stuff like that. You know, on anything but a frog. But it's a beautiful, magical space in where we all can just learn and continue learning and caring and fueling each other, you know?
It's also like that no job's too small kind of mentality and, and attention to detail and being able to just do everything and all encompassing, just so much power behind any project that you do, knowing that that's behind it. I'm not gonna lie, like my audience is probably going to know, like, you know, I dropped a bunch of names in the beginning. What celebrity did you like working with the most? Or not the most, that's such a general question, but like what celebrity were you like, wow, this was so fun? Like maybe was there ever a moment that you were like, wow, I'm starstruck? I know you had done that project with Pacino a while ago, and I remember you were raving about that with me.
Man, I was so happy to be on that project.
Yeah.
It was my first introduction to film. I was the director's assistant. The director I produced for all his short form stuff, Yves Rivera, he directed that. And I just wanted to be there and be a sponge. He's like, bro, you got to commit to this for like 3-4 months. He's like, you sure? And I'm like, I'm very sure. Like, I just was a sponge on set. Like, I was just, every time he didn't need me for something, and even sometimes, unfortunately, when he did need me for something, I was just wandering around, like talking to people and like learning, like, you know, just like asking questions and just soaking it all up. And as far as like artists or clients I've worked with that kind of resonated with me, I hate to say it, but like, and it's a cliche thing, but 50 was one of the bigger ones.
Yeah.
And ironically, one of my first videos was for 50. I think actually my very first video I ever produced, he was the feature on. So fast forward to like now, and you know, having become such great friends with Eve and their best of friends, and it's like, you know, having that 1 degree of separation to somebody that for me is so iconic that I remember one of the first, I think we were like 4 videos in with 50 or something like that. And as he was walking up to set, he's like, oh, what up, O? And I was like, wait, he knows who I am? And then I walked over to Ethan and I was like, yo, he knows who I am. And he's like, of course he knows, fool. And I'm like, well, thanks. Like, you know, but that was definitely one of those moments. We were filming in like Jamaica, Queens, some intro for Power, for one of the Power shows, the soundtrack or the theme song. But you know, Ed Sheeran was a big one also.
He seems just like chill.
Super chill. You know, funny story with him. He had this nice watch on, and I was like, oh, that's a nice watch. And I had a nice watch. He liked it. He's like, oh, try it on. This is the one I wear, like, you know, my day-to-day watch. And he gave it to me to try on. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, what do these go for? He's like, yeah, 1.8 million. I was like, what?
That's wild.
Insane. J Balvin's always been a pleasure to work with. I'm like 30 something videos in with him or something like that. Nice. Him and 50 are like the top most videos I've done for. But honestly, I take more pride in the people I work with than the people I work for, because we have great, you know, ADs and great production designers and art directors, and just the crews are like amazing. And, you know, recently we lost a huge figure in the production world. John Mingalone, he's an AD, which is the assistant director. He's the captain of the ship. So I like hire and source everything, but then there's somebody who's like delegating everything. Like, hey, we're going to need this light here in about 20 minutes. Like, hey, we need the artist at this time. So, you know, luckily I met somebody like John early on in my beginnings. And that guy was just like a plethora of information, and just he didn't just tell me what I needed to know, but he would explain why I needed to know it.
Yeah.
And people like that are like gold, man. Like him, Mark Kelly, Ham from Atlanta. Like, these are all ADs who like, and people who took the time to explain, not just tell me, but explain to me what these things meant and why they needed to be a certain way. And those people along the way, like, I just take more pride in that, like working with people like that have just done it for so long. And are just, you know, mentors to everybody around them with zero intention to be. Because if you ask them, they're like, I don't know who I helped. Like, they don't care. They're just the job. Like, you know. So as far as, you know, starstruck, it was definitely like 50 was one of them. Carla Morrison, huge Carla Morrison fan. She's a Spanish singer. She has a song that if you hear it, you'll be like, oh, I know exactly who that is.
Yeah.
But when I met her, I like told her manager, hey, like, I'm like a super fan. And I only told her manager, and her manager went over and told her, and then she came over and gave me a big hug, and I was like, I had that video of that interaction, like 'cause somebody was BTS.
That's cool.
So her, I don't know. I'm honestly honored to work with everybody that's an artist and in their creative space, you know. And at this point, I've worked with so many people. It's hard to like quantify that. Like Thalia, who lives in Greenwich, actually, amazing personality, like amazing person. She used to do telenovelas back in the the 90s and stuff, and like being her go-to New York producer for the label every time she does something, like I'm fortunate enough to be one of the in the pot for it, is amazing to me. And working with her every time like is amazing. Her team is amazing. So her is like a huge, I'm very proud for me because it's somebody also that my mother knows. You don't often get to work with people that like your parents know and stuff like that. And she was one of them. And so that was very proud moment for me. Willie Colon, who's a salsa legend, huge moment for me. It was like, but all these little things are in the grand scheme of things are just part of what it is, And for me, it's the making it happen that has been the most proud for me. So it's like, I have more memorable moments of creating memorable moments, if that makes sense, where it's like, for me, perfect story. Like actually, and this video's out so I can talk about it. I did for Jose Segarro, Film Heads. Shout out to him because he's amazing, creative as well. We did a video for J Balvin and Ed Sheeran, and this was in Paris with like 2 days notice. And like, obviously I'm not from Paris, but he's like, yo, if anybody's got my back out here, like, it's you. So we flew to Paris. We had like 2 days to prep this video, and we didn't even have a single location in mind. And I just wandered the streets of Paris and like randomly ended up in the oldest palace in Paris. And for whatever crazy reason, the manager happened to be there that Sunday, that morning when I walked in, for me to be able to ask like, hey, can we shoot a video here? And they were like, yeah, sure. And I like, you would just never expect that. Like in the oldest palace in Paris, I'm like, hey, I want to bring in, camera gear and lights and stuff. And potentially, you got a $20 million chandelier hanging over there. And we're going to put a stand right next to it. And like, and then they were so accommodating. But that whole production was so crazy that I didn't even like, it hit me later on that I'm like sitting in one of the suites. And that was Salvador Dali's apartment. And they were just letting us film in it. So I was like, things like that to me are like way more impactful sometimes than who you're working with, because you get those experiences. And in the creating of that video, like I had to pull some resources for other stuff. We shot some other stuff, and just I pulled in some resources that were just like out of left field that if you ask me now how I did it, I could still not tell you. Like it was just, luck, like literally luck and energy. Like you put that good energy out there and like the universe just sticks to you. Like it's got your back.
Dude,
so
I love that.
Some of those battle stories for me are more amazing than who I've met, and everybody I've met has been amazing. I've been very fortunate to meet every A to Z at this point. For the newer generation, for the urban stuff and whatnot.
Yeah, that's a wild story, bro. Usually I kind of wind it down and I ask my guests a couple rapid fire questions.
Yes.
They're usually not yes or no questions, but what does purpose mean to you?
Purpose means to me the intent with which you do things and the energy. Purpose is not lazy. Purpose is not waiting for tomorrow. Purpose is no procrastination. Purpose is not seeing an outcome where you give up.
I love that.
It's like, I have to figure this out. And the reason why I'm figuring this out is not just for self-gratification, but because the whole team wants this. Like, it's going to make all of us look better. It's going to make this guy that much more valuable than what they do, and this guy that much more valuable, and that girl's going to be, the next stylist, and this guy's going to be the next art director, and that guy's going to light the next, Christopher Nolan movie. Like, you just don't know where people go in their life. So it's like, if you're not giving them the best platform to excel in, then you're moving without purpose. And it's like you just have to really give it your all every time you leave your house.
Love that. What advice would you give to someone who is struggling to find their purpose?
That's a tricky one.
Mm.
Because purpose can continue redefining itself, for starters. So even if you don't have a purpose today, don't beat yourself up about it. Like that would be my advice. Don't beat yourself up about it because we don't all have it figured out. I'm 35 now. I've been in my career for going to be 10 years now. And if you asked me 11 years ago if my career even existed, I couldn't tell you that it did. So I think if you can't find purpose, at least be grateful until you do. And something somewhere along the line from just being grateful will align you with a purpose. Just being grateful, I think. And that's kind of steered me into good positions in the past is just being grateful. Even if I didn't understand the why at the moment, just be grateful to have the opportunity to do things. You know, even just going for a walk, man. Like, people take such small things for granted, and it's like going for a walk is a thing a lot of people can't enjoy sometimes. You know, people have their handicaps, their situations, and it's like if you can, everybody can find a way to be grateful for something in their life, even if it's just waking up. And if you can be grateful enough, eventually it'll lead you into a position of understanding of your purpose, I think. I mean, everybody's formula is not the same. Yeah. So, but I think that's the fundamental thing is like, be grateful and eventually purpose will find you.
I love that, man. And I'm really, really grateful for you coming and taking the time. And
no, I'm grateful for you giving me the platform to do it. And
yeah, man. I mean,
honestly,
you know, it's funny because we've had these like pretty deep conversations one-on-one kind of in my office about like a year ago. And, you know, I just remember being like, you know, like I like the way he moves and he's genuine. And it's an absolute honor having you here, man. If you can, feel free to speak to my audience, anything that's going on, how they can get in touch with you and whatnot. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine too.
I mean, social media, I guess, is a good point. See me on set. Simple enough. See me on set. What's the word for when you cut stuff short? Anagrams? No. Like what's
acronym?
Acronyms.
Yeah.
Hate acronyms. See me on set is exactly as it sounds. I hate acronyms. Passionately. Like, ain't wasn't a word growing up for me. Like, and my father would check me all the time. It's not a word. That's not a word. So I don't shorten anything. Yeah. And when people send me acronyms for stuff, I'm the guy that's like, what? Until they write it out. So see me on set.
Love that.
Yeah. I'd say call me, but no. Just hit me on the hit me on the gram, or email me. My email's on there. Just see me on set. Yeah. My phone number actually is on there, but
if you really didn't get in touch with him, hit me up and I'll let you guys know. But thank you so much for your time.
No,
man.
Thank you for having me here. And I will say, it's the impact today has had on me is just one step closer to being able to like give knowledge and be of some guidance to somebody, whoever ends up watching this. Like, I think it's important that we give back, and I'm horrible at it in the public sense. On one-on-one, you'll find, you know, hundreds of people that I've helped, but one-on-one, and I think at some point in all our professional standings, we want to kind of exponentiate the people that we reach out to, and I'm conscious of the need to do that and be more community oriented. So, today was a step towards that. I did a workshop a while back, the She Made It with Sade. And I'm trying to be consciously more available for people, like put the knowledge out there, like,
yeah,
you know? So today was a step in that direction, and I'm thankful for it because it's, I think it's important to give back. I think it's, you know, we fail to recognize that we are of community. We are of our neighbors. We are of our family. And, you know, the more abundant you are in what you give to the world, the more the world kicks back at you, you know?
Yeah. Love that. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
And special thanks to CV,
For real.
Kai Visions, for just his hard work and dedication.
And this
towards
impressive
making this.
setup.
Yeah,
Impressive setup.
there you go. And just making this the best podcast that it can be.
Fat King
So-
Films will be reaching out to CV for future stuff.
There you go.
Hold me to it.